Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi, and welcome to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm Marie Stella, your host from Melbourne, Australia. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome back to the show. Tiny rituals such as sharing a special handshake, a whispered phrase, shared glances, or even inside jokes may seem insignificant in the grand scheme of a relationship, but they hold so many opportunities for connection and meaning, from the science of oxytocin that releases during shared laughter to the psychological benefits of synchronized routines. Today, we'll be exploring all of this, how couple rituals can serve as the proverbial glue that strengthens a couple's bond. And guiding us through this is certified Gottman therapist and certified relational life therapist, Zach Brittle, who has a private practice in Seattle, Washington. And additionally, he's also the host of relationship podcast, Marriage Therapy Radio. So we're extremely fortunate to have him here with us today. So welcome to the show, Zach.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. But before we begin, do tell us about your background and what compelled you to pursue therapy as a profession.
Sure. Let's see. I went to college to be a teacher, English teacher, actually, and I got a job out of college, and I was really good at English, but really bad at people. And so I said, I better go learn how to do people. And so I went to school to study therapy, thinking I would be a teacher. And it turned out I was kind of good at it. I had an aptitude for kind of all the skills and tactics that it takes to enter into somebody else's story, but I didn't like it very much. I was working with students, graduate students, in kind of a one-on-one capacity, which was burning me out pretty fast until somebody brought their wife in. One of my students brought in his wife, and my whole body lit up. I was just like, oh, I like this. This is good. So I went to school to study therapy, to be a teacher, became a therapist, and then became a couples therapist almost immediately. And I don't do individual therapy. I don't like it. I'm not good at it. I'm good at it as a client, but I don't do it as a therapist because I'd much rather be with two people rather than one. So that's the cliff notes on how I got into both therapy and couples therapy in particular. And I do think those are different things, by the way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what is the difference between couples therapy and relationship therapy?
Well, couples therapy and say individual therapy is that, when you're doing couples therapy, it's really systems work, right? It's really about looking at a system that got created by two people. No system like that has ever existed before. They created a brand new thing. And so they're coming in and for some reason it's not working. It's gummed up or it's, actually problematic. And I like to get inside of it and figure out how do all of the different moving parts help these two people get what they want. As an individual therapy, it's not quite systems work. It's really soul work. You have to get inside somebody's story and their patterns and their themes. And that is one of the variables in couples therapy, but I find that I'm not very skilled at containing all that energy by myself. So to have, two or more people in the room is just, I don't know, it just brings me alive in a brand new way. So I'm into it.
Yeah, I love that. That's really interesting. So what can you tell us about some of the common misconceptions about relationship rituals?
Primarily that they're easy to create and sustain. I think we when we first meet somebody and we start to create patterns for being in a relationship, a lot of those patterns are driven by novelty and adrenaline and kind of excitement. And, we start to sort of unconsciously create these things that feel normal, but that they fade just like anything else if you don't steward them really well. I think another big misconception is that the rituals that I had as a kid are, of course, going to be the rituals that we have as adults. Like if I bring something in from my particular culture or background and you bring something in from your particular culture and background and they're different, I think it's really easy for people to assume that of course we're going to do mine. Like why would we not do mine? That's just the way the world works. And I think there's something about intentionality that gets missed, it is part of why these things fall apart. Adrenaline runs out, novelty runs out, and so you've got to bring back intention if you want it to work.
Yeah, that's just a brilliant preface for our topic for today. But before we go further into detail, I would love to get to know you better. So this is Have You Met Zach? My first question for you is, what is your favorite book?
Oh, probably my favorite book is a novel written by a guy named David James Duncan. The novel's called The Brothers K, and it's a Americanized twist on the Brothers Karamazov. It's a family story, takes place over several decades. It's actually set in the Pacific Northwest where I live. It's got baseball and religion and politics is at the center of it, but mostly it's a novel about family. It's a novel about a good dad, who is raising this family and trying to make that work. So that's probably my favorite novel. It's the one I go back to when I'm not, I don't read it over and over again, but I read parts of it over and over again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do the same thing with TV shows where, or sometimes movies, which might sound criminal, but I do enjoy, like, there are certain parts of a movie that I would really enjoy watching, and I don't necessarily want to watch the rest of it. So I'll just watch that little bit that gets me going. It sounds really comforting as well. But as for movies, what have you enjoyed recently?
It's not a movie, but it's a show that my wife and I are watching right now. It's also based on a novel. The novel is 100 Years of Solitude. It's by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and it's about this. Again, it's a big, long family story. It takes place over several generations. Netflix has a series now that is, it's a series about the book that my wife and I have been watching together. And I've really enjoyed kind of getting caught up in it. It's pretty faithful to the novel. So it's this big, beautiful, epic story that takes place over, I think, maybe 8 episodes. And we've watched 7 of them right now. I don't even want to watch the last one because I don't want it to be over. Like I just want to be in it. So I typically gravitate towards, superheroes and spaceships and sports and stuff like that, swords, everything that starts with S. And but in this case, I'm really captivated by this big epic story that I'm caught up in, which is again based on a novel. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is kind of responsible for the genre of magic realism. He's not really responsible for it, but he kind of popularized magical realism, which is, the notion that there are magical elements in our everyday life and that they just kind of, you got to pay attention if you want to look for them. So that's a theme that I love in my life and in my practice. And so that's what I'm watching right now.
Yeah, that reminds me of this series of television shows that's, or was it movies? I actually can't remember now because it's been a while, but the Hallmark movies, there's this series called The Good Witch, and it's essentially about this witch, but but it's not very clear. The witch seems good. She's kind. She's good. But there are implications that there's something magical in the air and something magical is happening, but it's not shown explicitly. And I really like that. I'm not sure if the TV show that you were referencing is anything like that at all, but it does sound very interesting. So
they're probably quite different, but I do think that the theme is one that resonates across genres and generations. And I I feel like I have some familiarity with The Good Witch, but it's not quite on the top of my brain.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's not the most memorable TV show.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to podcasts, are there any that you're listening to at the moment?
Um, I like, I'm one of the themes of my life right now is around mindfulness and bringing attention to things. And there's a podcast called Waking Up by a guy named Sam Harris who narrates it. And I listen to Sam's work quite a bit. And there are quirky ones that I like. But I stay pretty busy, so I don't get a lot of discretionary free listening time. Generally, I'm listening to music if I've got headphones on and time to chill.
Yeah, that's so fair. I find it really difficult to actively listen to a podcast myself as someone who hosts a podcast. Just because, it goes for about an hour. And I feel like sometimes if I don't have the visual aid in front of me, I find it really difficult to actively listen and I'll have to rewind. So they're really good for things like cooking, where like if I'm not using my brain too much, but definitely not something I can listen to when I have other things that require that brain. But in terms of role models, who do you look up to either in your professional life or your personal life?
Oh man, this is a hard one. I've been through a lot of different role models. The guy who wrote The Brothers K that I mentioned before, David James Duncan, I really admire him. We've become friends, and I like his brain, the way he thinks, the way he continues to persevere and hope through a lot of challenging realities for him as a person, and him in his relationship with the environment and his relationship with the government. Like, I really appreciate his point of view. But I don't know if I'm not really looking up to people too much anymore. I feel like I've had a kind of a rough string of role models letting me down. But I thought about your question because I knew it was coming. And you know who inspires me more than anybody right now is I have two daughters. They're 18 and 22, and the way that they are tackling the world and their own dreams and their own passions, I have a lot of envy for them because they are onto something that I wasn't onto at 18 or 22. Like they're kind of seizing the day. So I want to sort of not in a, like, I really do admire them both. I look up to them both, even though I made them both. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I mean, like, hey, you've got to commend yourself for that. You brought them up, so
Oh, I don't know. Like
there
I
you
did plenty
go.
to derail them from their from their from their best path, but they have found their way back again and again. And I appreciate how resilient they are and creative and just determined to make their way. And so that's my answer.
Wow, that is so heartfelt. I really love that. Yeah, I think there've been points in my life where I have really looked up to my younger siblings for things that I didn't manage to grasp at their age, and it's always such a wonder. And yeah, I really appreciate that. My last question for you before we end off the Have You Met section is: has there been a class or course that you've taken that has stuck with you to this day?
I just finished a certification in my private practice life in what's called relational life therapy that you mentioned at the top of the show. I spent most of my practice and career in couples therapy as a certified Gottman therapist, or in the Gottman method. Gottman method is based primarily on empirical research and science. And I really took to this complementary methodology called relational life therapy. It was created by a guy named Terry Real, which does a lot more around family of origin and trauma work and kind of how you got here and how, one way to think of it is like people want tools. People are always looking for tools, but relational life therapy sort of investigates the part of you that isn't inclined to use tools. Like, why don't you use them? What is in the way? What's keeping you from it? And personally, I've developed quite a lot of insight and growth myself. And now I'm, using it and training other clinicians in that methodology. So right now, it's the thing that has most of my attention and most of my energy in terms of courses or training that I've taken that have changed my life or my career.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to hear what insights that you can apply to relationships. So let's get started on the interview. Thank you for sharing so much about yourself. I feel like I got to know you really well now. For starters, what is your definition of relationships?
Ooh, what's my definition of relationships? Uh, hmm. Well, it seems like it's just a kind of an obvious one. It's whenever two people come together in a way that requires them to rely on one another. Um, there are obviously lots of times that you're together with people on a train or whatever, and you're not in relationship with them. But I suppose once you introduce dependency and accountability, then it becomes a relationship. I don't know if I have a better answer than that right now.
Yeah, that's completely fair. And how would you define shared meaning and its role in relationships and relationship rituals?
Yeah, I mean, again, relationships, we are meaning-making creatures. Like that is what we do. We look at the sunset and we make it mean something, or somebody cuts us off in traffic, we make that mean something. And I think when you get into a relationship with somebody, we are making meaning. And I think part of where relationships fall apart is when, maybe you and I are looking at the sunset and we think it means two totally different things. And then we go about our day based on that meaning. And that may mean that we head into totally different evenings, I guess, at that point, because the sun is set. But if you're not bringing some sort of cohesiveness or collaboration agreement into that meaning, then, things can pretty quickly fall apart, even if you don't know it. Like, I think, again, people can end up in a conversation and they're not even having the same conversation. You might say, hey, I need to talk about money. And one of you is talking about, retirement. And the other one is talking about how to get through the vacation planning phase. And so while you're talking about the same thing, you're not really in the same space. And so shared meaning is really critical in terms of making sure that we're not misaligned in anything really, even as basic as the conversation we're having about dinner time. I mean, obviously, there's lots of different ways that can fall apart, but I think it begins to fall apart in super subtle ways that often are the problem in the end.
Yeah, and I think be this can be true for friendships as well. I mean, friendships are a type of relationship, right? And yeah, I do see this kind of thing happening in friendships too. It's just unfortunate that we don't value friendships as much as we do like a primary romantic relationships, which is like fair because I feel like I do that. But anyway, that's not the
Oh, I
point.
don't know. I
But
mean, I think that they're just different, right? It's not that they're
yeah,
valued more or less. I think they just serve different purposes in our life. Some of my
yeah.
friendships are as rich and intimate as my marriage, which my wife might balk at, but I don't really think so. She's got similar relationships. They just serve different purposes.
Oh yeah, 100%. And what do you think is the function of rituals in relationships? What does it do?
I think, I think when you have them on purpose, they help you mark time. They help you mark time and understand, how you are, doing relative to the last time. So sometimes that time is, sometimes that time is big and broad, like the holidays, and so you have all these rituals over the holidays. And when you go from one year to the next, you can sort of see, we have on our mantelpiece during the holidays a photograph of our kids with each year with Santa Claus, right? You can sort of see them grow older as a function of like this moment when they met this, jolly old dude. But they also help you mark time whether it's Taco Tuesday or whether it's your morning handshake or secret handshake or kiss or whatever it is. So for me, it really does help you punctuate with a little bit of magic the daily grind with something that feels like it belongs just to you and your whoever you're sharing this ritual with.
Yeah. And I see the terms routine and rituals used very closely with each other. Is there a difference between the two terms?
I think so. I mean, routine is the rhythm that you're in to help you, check your boxes during the day or the week or the month. Like I have a routine pretty much every single morning. I get up an hour and a half before I have to be in my office. I go through a set, kind of series of events that get me ready to go out the door. I wouldn't call any of those rituals, in part because they don't hold any special or unique meaning for me. It's not a ritual that I get in the shower. It's not a ritual that I floss my teeth or that I suppose this one is kind of a ritual, but I fill my water bottle in a specific kind of way every day. It's a little weird, but rituals, add a level of meaning. I think a lot of times a word that I associate with the ritual is something like the word sacred. Like it sort of sets it apart. It's special to you. And when I'm talking to people about how rituals work in the flow of your life, what I want to suggest is that you ought to have them in a way that when you miss them, you miss them. Like, oh, I missed this. If my kids didn't go see Santa one year, they would miss it. They would know that it was missing from the flow of their year, even now as adults, they're like, when are we going to go see Santa? And I was like, oh, so I don't really feel that way about my routine. Like, oh, I missed this or I missed that. But I do feel that way about things that are designated as, sacred.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Like routine sounds like more of a necessary thing, like a chore. I mean, yeah, yeah, a pattern, like something you need to do in order to get your life going. Rituals seem like they're a bit more meaningful to you. For example, I like to do a daily cleanup in the kitchen just to make my day feel like it's all wrapped up and tiny, but it doesn't mean anything to me. It just makes me feel like I'm done for the day. Whereas the ritual that I do is like making my partner a milkshake because he loves it so much, and we enjoy that little moment where I've just made something for him. Um, yeah. So that's really good to know. And in what ways can rituals help couples with navigating through major life transitions or struggles?
Well, again, I think they help you mark time. They help you make meaning. So, if you're going through something that's especially challenging and you can become easily overwhelmed, say by just the stress or strain of your day-to-day life or whatever's in the ether, sometimes having a ritual that you can rely on just ties you back to sanity, and ties you back to one another. I think that I hear a lot of clients who come into my office, and one of the things that bringing them in here is this idea that they just feel like roommates, or they feel like they're living parallel lives. And if you think about how parallel lines work, where they're just kind of running next to each other in a straight way, the ritual is the thing that sort of pulls those lines together, sort of pulls them into this tethered space from which you can bounce back out and get back on the track that you need to. But, nobody wants to just like be living life alongside of someone. You might as well just be on the train, but if you're going to actually share life with somebody, you got to bring, kind of these connection points into sharper relief.
Yeah. And what are some of the signs that may indicate that a relationship is going through that struggle and just generally struggling to come back together at the end of the day, or at least on a regular basis?
Well, you're bored. You are lonely. You are focused on other things, which may be good, like your kids or your job or your health. You could also be focused on other things that are not so good, like your addiction or your affair partner. So I think when you're not doing the proactive work of staying connected to one another, it's easy to let your attention drift into other places. And, again, even if it's in the example of your kids, like another thing that I see is couples who come in here because they're about to empty nest. They're about to have their kids are about to leave, and they're wondering, like, what do we have now? And I think those couples that have protected their relationship with rituals, marking time and creating meaning together, they have a really quick answer to that. Oh, we travel, we date each other. We have, we have secrets that belong just to us,
Yeah. I also do see this with my parents. My father just recently retired, and I mean, he is one of those who just lives and thrives on work. But it is comforting to see that he is starting to travel now. My parents, the month after my dad retired, they booked three trips in 3 consecutive months, which is quite I'm sure some people do travel a bit more than that, but it is completely new to them for sure. Like previously with um kids, they've only managed to travel like once a year, maybe in terms of family trips, or even less. Or it's really nice to see. And are there any specific types of rituals that you tend to recommend for couples, or is it more important that couples figure out a ritual that is more, significant to their specific relationship?
No, I mean, they're both kinds, right? There are sort of generalized rituals that are built into the flow of the zeitgeist, right? The holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, maybe even weekends. But there are others that I think, the more creative you get, the more likely you are to find something that works just for you. I do have kind of a standard sort of rituals 101 that I offer to couples and say, I think you ought to try at least this. And it's pretty simple. It's that I think couples can have 4 dates every day. What? 4 dates a day? That's a lot. Well, the way I'm thinking about it, though, it's only about 10 minutes long. And if you think about couples, COVID kind of switch this up a little bit because nobody left their house. But if you think about couples who, by and large, they wake up, they go to work, they come home from work, and they do whatever, and then they go to bed. I think the 4 dates are 2 departures and 2 reunions. And so the first reunion is when you both have woken up. And so if you wake up about the same time, maybe there's a ritual before you get out of bed. Maybe it's eye contact, and it's just 15 seconds, or maybe it's just an extra long snuggle, or maybe whatever. It doesn't even matter. And then the second date, that's your first date. The second date is at your first departure, and that's when one or both people leave to work for work. So maybe there's a secret handshake, or maybe there's a here's your lunch, honey, or maybe you have a prolonged kiss or hug. Sometimes I'll recommend that couples ask this question in the morning. And the question is, what's one thing I should ask you about at the end of the day? So it's a ritual, right? It's a ritual of saying, hey, I'm interested in you and I want to know what you want me to be interested in. And then you have your third date, your second reunion. And that's when one or both of you get back from work. And, you could have, again, a prolonged hug. You could have sometimes I call it the Mr. Rogers moment, where there's like an actual process of going from out there to in here. If you're probably too young to know Mr. Rogers, but he would come in and he would sing a song and change his sweater and his shoes. And he would transition ritually from being whatever he was out there to being inside. And it's the perfect time to ask that question. If in the morning they said, hey, ask me about my dentist appointment, or ask me about my workout at the gym, or ask me about this meeting I have with my boss, then that's the time that you ask. You say, hey, how was your dentist appointment? How was your workout? How'd your meeting go with your boss? And then the third date is your second departure. And that's when one or both of you goes to bed. And I hear people say all the time, we don't go to bed at the same time. And I'm like, you can go to the bed at the same time. So go to the bed, tuck your partner in, have a gratitude practice, do something that, that signals you're my person and I've got your back and I care about you. And then, so it's like rituals 101. It's less than 10 minutes each day. You take 4 opportunities to connect with one another in a specific way so that if you miss it, you miss it. If you kind of go, oh, I forgot to ask her a question today. That's not, you missed your routine. That's, you missed your ritual. And that is where I think you can tell the difference.
Yeah, I love that. And have you heard or have you heard of any more unique, special ones that kind of take you by surprise?
Oh gosh, all the time. Again, you can, there are, people have rituals around mealtime, whether that's something as simple as the prayer that they offer. It could be that they have, again, Taco Tuesday. There are rituals around sex, initiating and even rejecting sex. I've heard one, I don't know if this is an urban legend or not, but it was a couple that was not particularly courageous about initiating and rejecting sex, but they were interested in it. And in order to help them establish a ritual, they bought 2 action figures. They bought a Superman and a Wonder Woman, and the Superman and Wonder Woman stood up on the mantle of their bed. And if one of them wanted to have sex, they would come in and they would lay down the action figure, and the other one would notice that, and then they would either lay down the other action figure. So if Superman was laid down, maybe Wonder Woman would lay down, and that would be the way that they knew that they were ready for sex. And then alternatively, if they weren't ready for sex, they would just stand Superman back up. And that was the way that they created meaning and helped them kind of establish a pattern that broke the mystery, right? Are we going to do it? Are we not? Should I ask? Should I not? How do we do? So, I hear this stuff all the time because people are creative and we do make meaning. And I always enjoy learning about how couples solve problems by sort of, introducing a kind of a false governor, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but
yeah. I love that. I love that example.
Like I said, I've heard that before. It's not from a client. It's a story that floats around in the couples therapy world, but I think it signals an important aspect, which is sometimes rituals exist to help you do something you can't do without the ritual,
Yeah, 100%. What my partner and I like to do when we depart from each other, especially for work. No offense, I do love this job, but what we like to do is because we are generally not the most comfortable with expressing emotion in a sincere way on a daily basis. So what we like to do is pretend to throw a tantrum when either of us are leaving for work because we are sad, but we also don't want to every day sincerely, express that, which I don't know if that's an unhealthy thing to do. So, but we just kind of hide behind this huge pretend temper tantrum, being like, "No, we're leaving me." But it does help to convey to each other, that we are going to be missing their presence.
You're literally creating shared meaning right there because that's yours that you and your partner have, and it means something to the two of you that, it would be kind of ridiculous if you did with somebody else.
Yeah. And when it comes to conflict management and reconciliation, it sounds like that's something you may work a lot with in your therapy practice. In what ways do rituals assist with that?
Well, again, sometimes I think they can give you easy ways out of complicated situations. So here's a ritual that I don't know if it's exactly a ritual, but it's in the neighborhood of what we're talking about. I had a couple who they argued quite a bit. They usually were arguing when one or both of them had been drinking. They were big football fans, so they actually met at a Super Bowl party. They were recent college graduates. They were fans of their college team. They would tailgate all the time. Usually after one of those, they would get home and one or both of them in a lubricated state would start to rage. And they hated it. They hated that they didn't have the skills, the regular relationship skills to solve this issue. And the alcohol issue wasn't really it. It was more of the escalation issue. So they came in one day and they said, Zach, you'll never believe what we did. We went to a craft store to buy baby supplies for like a baby shower or something. And while they were there, they bought additional supplies and they made little yellow penalty flags, which in American football is the signal for you've broken the rule. The referee throws the flag and it says, okay, stop, everybody go back to your huddles and, start it up. I don't know if we're going to get a lot of people who know American football in here, but they made little flags. They put them all over their house. And so whenever they got into one of these rages, all one of them had to do was grab this flag, throw it up in the air. And that was their signal. That was their ritual that helped them stop this escalated phase. And then they would calm down. They would either just go to bed or they would separate or they would, just try to arrest this pattern. So they didn't have to rely on their skill. They relied on their ritual that they created together. It was theirs. Again, this audience, depending on where you're at in the world, maybe you don't have any resonance at all with the little yellow penalty flag. It wouldn't work for you, but it worked for them because it belonged exclusively to them. And I think that's what ritual, that's where the real power of a ritual is that it's our thing that we do that helps us solve whatever problem that we're trying to solve.
Yeah. And at what point would you recommend us reassessing or assessing the presence or effectiveness of rituals? I know it sounds really, how do I put this, overly analytical, but is there
No, I think
a significance there?
No, I mean, I think if a ritual becomes routine, then maybe the magic is lost a little bit. I mean, you just pay attention. If you're looking for an actual timeline, I think inside the scope of a long-term relationship, about every 3 years, you ought to revisit everything, kind of figure out like, oh, is this working for us? How does this go? What's the situation of our life? Is our finances the same? Is it different? Do we have more or fewer kids, because they got born or they left for college? Like about every 3 years, you ought to check in and say, hey, what is it that we want? And what do we need to do to create that situation, right? So that's a generic calendar answer. But I think if you have rituals that aren't accomplishing what you wanted them to accomplish when you created them, then it's probably worth revisiting whether or not you need to come up with something new.
Yeah. And for the majority of this interview, we have been talking about couples rituals from this perspective of, two willing participants. So how should couples address situations where one partner might be resistant to establishing or participating in rituals?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would do is try to learn as much as I could about that. Like, what's going on and why don't you want that? And what does it mean to you? And if you don't want to do that, what do you want to do? I think that there's a common challenge in relationships where one partner says no, whatever it is, no to sex, no to a ritual, no to a conversation, no to any ask. And I think that partner needs to learn how to then also say yes. So if they say, oh, I don't want to do this ritual. And I go, okay, well, what do you want to do? What ritual do you want to do? Oh, I can't do that. I don't have time. Okay, well, what can you do? No, I don't want to have sex tonight. Okay, well then how do you want to be intimate? Maybe it's a board game or maybe it's sex that we plan over the weekend, So I think if you've got somebody who's opting out or trying to opt out, I think the responsibility falls to that person to articulate how they would wish to opt in, which, it's not so much that it's, you know how it is, man. It's like if the answer is no, 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 and I have to keep bringing ideas, and it's always no, it's going to be a really frustrating experience for me. But if the answer is no, but how about this? Now we're in a conversation. Now we're in an actual dialogue. And that's where relationship lives.
Yeah, 100%. And what advice would you give to couples looking to establish meaningful rituals in their relationship?
I don't know. I'm a big fan of creativity. I mean, just get creative. Figure out if you're looking for ways to add or create meaning through rituals in your life, start with 4 dates a day. And, then days become weeks, weeks become months, months become quarters, quarters become years. And are there ways that you can punctuate those blocks of time with markers, little markers that help you feel connected to one another? And I think, again, just get creative. You can't get it wrong. I mean, some will work and some won't work, but you invest in and develop the ones that do work, and you abandon the ones that don't. So that's the simplest answer.
Yeah, well, that's a really good answer. Now let's talk about some of the everyday application of couples rituals. What is a habit that you recommend practicing in conjunction with rituals?
Well, I kind of already said it, right? Like, I think you ought to find ways that help you prove to one another that this is your person. So whether it's the 4 dates or something that's a little more investment heavy, like I think date nights or dating is an important part of it. I have a couple who had a really great system for how they did date nights, because they were constantly I'll give you 2 examples, actually. They were constantly challenged by who was in charge and what they were going to do. And what if I didn't want to do that? And how is it going to work? And do we have time? And who gets the babysitter? Well, they agreed. Their agreement was that they would have 2 dates a month. One of those dates would be inside the house. One of those dates would be outside the house. So it's February now. So if you and I were the couple, you might be in charge of the inside date in February, and I would be in charge of the outside date in February. And then in March, it switches. So now I'm in charge of the inside date in March, and you're in charge of the outside date in March. And the person who is invited on the date doesn't get to have any opinions about what they do. So if I plan a hot dog eating contest, then, that's what you're doing. And you might not like it. It might not be your favorite thing, but that's what we're going to do. And if you want to take me to the opera, I'm going to the opera. And I don't have to like the opera, but I can like being with you in a new setting, so I think you can create the rules to help you eliminate some of the challenges. Another couple, when it came to date night, they could never agree on where to go to dinner. So their ritual was they bought one of these coupon books that you can get usually locally. And the coupons always have a whole bunch of restaurants where you can buy one, get one free entree. And they went through the book and they found all the restaurants that they might be interested in eating at. And then they put all those coupons in a bowl. And when it came to date night, they reached in the bowl and they grabbed the coupon. And then that's where they went to dinner. And it eliminated for them all of the arguing about where they're going to go. Like, they just took it out of the equation. And so that was their ritual. And, the thing about rituals that's kind of cool is you tell somebody that story at a party. You go, how do you guys decide where to go to dinner? And you go, oh, we have a fishbowl and it's full of coupons. And did that? People usually go, that's amazing. I love that. Oh, I wish I'd thought of that. So that's probably where I would put another distinction in about rituals versus routines is, what's the thing in your life that makes people go, oh, I wish I'd thought of that?
Yeah, I love rituals as well because it can so easily be manipulated in a sense to fit the relationship, the needs of the relationship. For example, my partner and I, we are homebodies. We love going on dates, but we just sometimes, with all the things that are going along in our lives, we can't muster up the energy to go on a date. So we usually like to go on what we call like errand dates, where we run errands and do like a mini date at the same time, and where my partner will buy me a coffee, for example, and breakfast, like a croissant, and we'll sit at the coffee shop and we'll have a little enjoy the day outside, enjoy the nice sun with the flowers, and that for us is kind of like a 2-in-1. We do our errands. I know it sounds boring, but it is exciting for us.
Yeah.
And it is nice to enjoy, like, kind of lighten the mood of errands, of having to go to the market, for example.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, like, what sounds boring to someone may be just what the other relationship needs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
And
there's a little bit of a trade-off, right? Like you're not going to agree about everything all the time, but part of what you agree about is we're more interested in staying connected than we are in, you know, making sure I do my thing every time.
yeah.
Like I talked to, I
Yeah.
mean, the opera thing is a good example because I hear from people all the time. Guys will say something like, I don't like the theater. I don't like musicals or something. And I'm like, look, theaters are usually gorgeous buildings. Like go look at architecture.
Mhm.
Go have a cocktail you've never had before. Just look at your partner's face while they while they watch the musical. Like you don't have to, the thing isn't the thing. The connection is the thing, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. I love the way that you said, go look at architecture. It's so true. The buildings are beautiful. Like you don't have to 100% appreciate and enjoy what your partner enjoys doing, but you can support them while they do it, you know?
Yeah. Or just find something else to be interested in. There's tons of other people there. Go look at other people, you know?
People watch,
Yeah,
eavesdrop on conversations.
sure.
Yeah, something like that. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. I've had such an incredible time speaking to you about this. Now, let's move on to the open mic section. And this is where you get the chance to talk about anything that you're passionate about, and it doesn't have to be related to the topic. So the floor is entirely yours. Please take it away, Zach.
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I am a pretty busy guy. I work a lot. My practice is full. I'm writing quite a bit. I am speaking quite a bit. So I don't have a lot of free time, but I am going on vacation next week. I leave for Mexico with my family, one of my daughters and her best friend. We're just going to go sit in the sun. And I'm working very hard to prepare myself to clock out completely. So I'm not going to have any of that writing or any of that work to do. I'm just going to do crosswords and read books. Right now, one thing I feel pretty strongly about is reading books made of paper. Like I feel like I'm being battered pretty heavily by the algorithm. Every time I pick up my phone, it's some other piece of, news tailored to me that is only going to either make me upset or just distract me from whatever I'm doing. And so I also, like, it's taught me that I only have about a 2-minute attention span when it comes to consuming content. So I am really excited to go sit still, read a book made of paper so that I don't get any notifications while I'm reading my book. And, just kind of do the crossword, hang out with my daughter who is about to graduate from high school. This is our last kind of trip together. I don't know. My wife's pretty cool. I like hanging out with her. Maybe we'll finish 100 Years of Solitude between now and the time we get on the airplane. But yeah, I'm just of that era right now where I'm kind of moving through life and then looking forward to slowing down for just a second.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds really pleasant, and I hope you have a good time. And I hope it's not going to be too, mind numbing either. With I imagine it's going to be quite the adjustment going from working all the time to
Yeah, a little
not
bit.
doing any work at all. So
Yeah.
I do hope that you'll adjust well to it.
Yeah. I'm excited. I
Yeah.
got a couple books that I've been saving up just for this purpose. And I'm eager just to kind of get there, plant my butt and turn some pages.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Zach, for joining us today. If our listeners want to find out more about you and what you do, where can they go?
I have a weekly podcast that comes out on Tuesdays. It's called Marriage Therapy Radio. Anything that I do on social media is usually at Marriage Therapy Radio. I think it's on Instagram and TikTok. But if you're interested in finding me specifically, I'm at zachbrittle.com. And the Google is an easy way to learn more about anything that I've written or anything that I'm doing. So that's how you find me.
Awesome possum. We'll link those in the show notes. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
You've been listening to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at re.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Marie Stella. Thanks for tuning in.